Good morning, Venters. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it or not, but they had 1 year's worth of rain in certain parts of Spain. And for everything that I saw in the Carolinas and Florida when it came to flooding recently, I've never seen anything in all my days on the earth that looked like the flooding that happened to Spain. They were showing hundreds of cars littering the streets like Legos in a kid's bedroom. You know, those Legos that you step on barefooted and you just can't imagine how painful they are? That's what it looked like with regards to cars in the streets in certain parts of Spain. And I knew it was bad yesterday when I saw the pictures, but today they were talking about how certain places in Spain got a year's worth of rain in a single 8-hour period. And it's just like, holy moly, that is crazy. And you want to know what else is crazy? How all of a sudden it's 49 degrees when literally just a week and a half ago, it was still 100 degrees outside, you know? It's like, geez, how is this possible? So the weather is kind of getting a little interesting this year. Is this going to be the year where we have, or is this going to be the season where we have just catastrophic weather in a bunch of parts of the world? I don't know. So we could talk about global warming, and I've mentioned this before. What we could do is we could go ahead and set a bunch of standards and goals for ourselves, right? But from what I understand, I have a feeling that this can't be stopped no matter what. And again, even if we did decide, hey, we're going to get rid of every one of our gas-powered cars right this instant, I still don't think China and India are going to do anything like that. It's right. You always hear that China's opening up another coal mine, and apparently we need coal for this future world of electric vehicles that we're all envisioning. But either way you look at it, I'm sorry, my heart goes out to the people in Spain. I heard that 95 people so far have been confirmed to have lost their lives. Man, they were showing a woman holding a dog in one hand and a bag full of something in the other hand. I don't know if that was a cat or what, but they were showing a lady. She looked, I don't know, like a middle-aged woman. And they showed a helicopter rescue team kind of come down to rescue her and her dog and whatever the hell else she had in her bag. This is one of those peaceful times of year. This is probably my favorite time of the year, especially here in Arizona, because while it is cold in the early morning and late evening, it's really, really nice during the mid part of the day. So I'm imagining a situation, I don't know the weather, but I'm just kind of imagining a situation where our high will probably be in the mid 70s, maybe even low 70s. And right now I'm at the point of the day where it's at its lowest. We're right now at 49 degrees, which again, for most people out there watching, 49 is no big deal. But for me at least, 49 is one of those temperatures where it's like, holy moly, bust out the winter wear. And by the way, this jacket I'm wearing looks like something that you would see somebody in Alaska wearing, doesn't it? But man, this jacket, I've had it for the last 3 years. Super duper warm. I bought this jacket at one of my favorite places to buy jackets. I'm sure you guys have heard. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Burlington Coat Factory. And that's where I bought this. I'm a big fan of Burlington. To anybody that has a Burlington in their neighborhood, but for whatever reason, they've never, gone inside, go inside. They have so much more than just coats. They have shoes, they have jackets, they have toys. They have a lot of stuff that you can get there. They have furniture and stuff for your home. And a lot of it is priced really, really nicely. Every time I go in there, they've got lines like crazy. And so definitely check it out. If you guys have a Burlington in your neighborhood and you like it, let me know down in the comments. Actually, if you guys let me know anything down in the comments, try not to curse or say anything bizarre, because apparently none of my comments that people leave me stick, or at least only half of Mala's do. We learned yesterday that Pepsi is doing layoffs, and I found out that it wasn't just in Chicago. They also did layoffs, I believe, in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Could it be that people are starting to take a lot of weight loss drugs and it's starting to affect the bottom line of these soda makers? Because if Pepsi's having soda sales that are down, I have to assume Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper are probably going through the same situation. So if it's Pepsi laying off people today, it could very well be Coca-Cola laying off people tomorrow and Dr. Pepper laying off people the next day. And if that does happen, you have to ask yourself why. People are addicted to soda. And then you have to ask yourself, well, if millions of people are taking Wegovy to lose weight, and it literally makes them get to the point where they don't want to eat anything, and they don't want to have soda anymore, because when you drink soda and your stomach has these chemicals running through them, apparently it makes it where drinking carbonated drinks and stuff can be really challenging for people. And it's starting to affect Pepsi's bottom line, or at least that's what I'm imagining is happening. So if that's happening and Pepsi's starting to lose money, and these Wegovy drugs, they work so darn well, well, I guess it's just really easy for people. Why walk and invest hours upon hours of your time losing weight when all you have to do is inject some medication? So I guess the trickle down on that is I'll be one of those channels that there's no need to walk, so why walk with this guy? I heard yesterday that they ran a test, and the test came out and somehow it got on air. I don't know how this happened. I was watching it from another YouTuber's channel, and it was saying that Kamala won the presidency, or at least the battleground state of Pennsylvania. And people were like weirded out, because it's like, God, they're already making a practice run of what it's going to be like. If we live in a world where everybody knows who's going to win in advance, then something's weird, don't you think? And if everybody doesn't like you, and some way, somehow you still manage to win, that is weird. That is very weird. If you talk and nobody's there to recognize that you talk and nobody hears your words, did it really happen? Right? You hear that saying that if a tree falls down in the forest and no one's there to observe it, did it really happen? Does it make a sound? Of course it makes a sound. You're just not there to hear it, right? But the animals still are, that's for sure. Well, that's how I feel with this channel. Is Jesse still making sounds? Yeah, but I think the world has spoken, Jesse. They don't want to hear what's coming out of your mouth. And that's too bad. That's too bad, because I'm going to keep on talking. God bless it. There's nothing you can do about it. On another note, I saw the New York Yankees jump out to a 5-0 lead yesterday in the World Series versus the Dodgers. And all of a sudden, I'm watching the game, and all of a sudden, the Dodgers make this comeback. The Yankees take a brief lead going into the final couple innings, and the Dodgers manage to make an additional comeback and take the lead and win the World Series. So if you're a Dodgers fan, like a lot of my coworkers are, hey, congratulations. Is it true that when you win a championship, you feel good for a month? Because, man, here in Arizona, other than that one championship we won also over the Yankees, way back after 9/11 happened, right? Way back in 2001. Man, other than that, the state of Arizona, we haven't won squat. Well, wait a minute, Jesse. What about those 3 WNBA championships? Yeah, what about them? What about them? God, we got the sun out. It's at an angle where it just hits you right in the eyeballs. Right in the eyeballs. Guys, I haven't shared that with you guys in a while. We have these little libraries where kids can come and share a book and take a book. And if you don't have one of those libraries in your neighborhood, it's a part of the littlelibrary.org system Google littlelibrary.org and see if somebody can set up a little reading post for your front yard. It kind of sits in your front yard, no different than a mailbox, but it's just a little mini library where kids can come and take a book and leave a book for others. All right, guys, Thursday night football's coming up, so I figure real quick for the pregame, I'll go for a little walk and talk to my venters. Guys, I saw a video today on Dee's African Perspective. That is a YouTube channel that I enjoy watching. Dee really gives down-to-earth advice, tips, and she does a lot of reactions to various videos. This video of hers that I saw today was a lot of people lamenting the idea and fact that they had purchased an EV, an electric vehicle. A lot of the neighborhood is getting ready for Halloween. I even have some candy I'm going to be giving out as well. Want to wish you guys a happy Halloween, even though you'll be seeing this the day after. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the problems that people have with their EV cars. Check this out. One of the girls on the video was literally taking a video of herself stuck inside of her car, because apparently if you're inside of your vehicle and you go ahead and start an update on your car, it locks the doors and turns off the air conditioning, and if you're inside of it while it's updating, you're basically stuck. And she was kind of mildly freaking out because basically she was sweating bullets and it was 103 degrees inside of her car. So that was one of the things that we had as a complaint. When updating, you get either stuck inside your car or outside of your car. So I imagine if you accidentally had your purse on the inside of your car and it had your cell phone in there, you could be potentially stuck out of your car while the car itself is updating. Now, I don't know if that means if you open up the door or roll down the window, it stops the whole update, or if it's literally just impossible to do anything while it's updating. But again, that's where we have venter power. Let me know your thoughts down below. You might be able to answer that question. Another problem is the whole idea that they need updating. I kind of like the idea of just getting in your car, going ahead and turning the ignition switch and hitting the gas and going. If you have to update your car, I don't know if it's once a year, once every month, whatever the situation is. But again, just the whole idea of having to update your car does seem kind of ridiculous. I'm not used to seeing people outside. They're getting ready for Halloween. What I was trying to say there, and of course I'm always bumbling and mumbling nowadays in my old age, is range anxiety. When you fill up your gas tank on gas, you know that you're going to be able to make it X amount of 100 miles through experience, right? Then on top of that, you know that even if you miscalculated on a trip, there's probably 100 gas stations between you and your destination where you could fill up or top it off, right? With the case of these electric vehicles, a lot of times they don't know exactly how far they're going to make it. And then on top of that, in cold or extremely hot weather, apparently there's a little bit of a drain on the battery, so it doesn't quite get the range that one would expect. Now that would make it very, very hair-raising if you are taking a trip cross country, and there's certain areas in states like Texas where you might drive for hours on end without coming in contact with a gas station. And then that was another problem. Even if you are hundreds of miles away from a gas station, there's gas stations out there. We don't really have the infrastructure set up to charge everybody. And even if we did, a lot of people don't necessarily know where every charge station is. But then again, I suppose since your car is getting updates, it probably can drive you to the next charging station, which I guess is a cool thing. Here's another problem. Whenever you have something novel, like an electric car, you're going to obviously have to take it to mechanics that can work on electric vehicles. And from what I understand, that can be hella expensive. And on top of being hella expensive, it's probably hard to get things repaired because of the lack of know-how from the mechanics that don't know how the heck to work an electric vehicle, or at least how to repair it, right? As these cars get more and more popular, the problems actually compound, because now it's just not you and a handful of other EV owners taking your car to the shop. There might be dozens of people in line ahead of you. And speaking of lines ahead of you, at these charger stations, unless they expand the charger stations and get more locations, there are a lot of moments where they'll show videos of people sitting in their car in line, 20 or 30 cars deep, waiting for these vehicles that take, an hour or so to charge? And then one of the guys was saying, I was always told that when you get an electric vehicle, you'll make up the cost on gasoline money that you save. But he was saying that every time he charges, it takes him a whole hour to charge up to 80% battery. And then he said it takes him a whole second hour to charge up to 100%. And he was saying that at the present moment that he was charging, that his charging bill at this place that he pulled up to was going to be about $50. So when you get to the point where you realize the car is more expensive, the car has really expensive problems, it's not really that reliable in hot or cold weather, it doesn't really make it very far on a full charge, all of a sudden you have to ask yourself, why the heck am I buying this thing? And a lot of people would tell you, well, we're buying it to make a better, cleaner environment, but the reality is the minerals that go into these batteries and the damage that occurs when these batteries go off and start on fire is just so incredible. I mean, it literally takes hours for the fire departments to just get them to stop burning. What's going to happen when we have millions of those vehicles getting in car accidents with other vehicles every single day in this country? And I'm sure it's already happening. One of the biggest things they were saying is that if you have a $110,000 Mercedes EV that you buy, apparently, guys, right when you drive it off of the lot, apparently it loses like 50% of its value, or it loses about 60% of its value over a 2-year period. So you buy this thing for $120K, and before you know it, you're trying to sell it 2 years later, and it's only worth 48 or 50K. So again, these are all things that people should know when you're buying a novel item, and I would consider an EV a novel item because yes, even though they've been around for a long time, there's still a lot of kinks they have to work out of the system. But the number one kink that would bother me is just the fact that there's not very many places where you can charge up. And then here's a question that I'll ask for you venters. When you charge up a electric vehicle from, let's say, Mercedes versus, let's say, a Tesla, do you have to have special nozzles, to charge up? Is there a special connection? And if so, are they going to ultimately try to make that universal? Because right now, no matter what type of gas guzzler you have, it either takes diesel or it takes unleaded, but you can go to any gas station and get either. With this, I don't know if you can charge your car if it's with a Tesla charger and you have a Mercedes or a Chevy or whatever the case might be. But again, that might be something that you guys know better than I do. All I know is when you add up all the spare parts, it equates to a big pain in the ass, doesn't it? I thought it was funny when the girl was locked in her car and she's all, it's 103 degrees in here and I'm sweating bullets and I'm kind of freaking out. And I'm thinking to myself, you know as well as I do, if you had this situation for the next 10 years, there are eventually going to be some valley girls that don't survive. When we were younger, guys, I don't know if you remember, but we always had that term valley girl to describe just a ditzy girl that doesn't know any better, right? And the reason I mention this is because if you're absolutely dying in a car, I hope you'd be smart enough to try to break out in some way, shape, or form and not just accept your fate, While your phone's working, maybe call the fire department to come rescue you if you absolutely have to. But that's one of those things where you'd be so embarrassed, you would probably just accept your fate.
All right, so let's read a couple comments because, naively speaking, I don't have an EV vehicle. But if you offered me an EV vehicle right now and said, hey, this is a prize that you've won, here's the keys, I would accept it, and I would try to map out all the different charging areas, and I would try to make that car work. They are super cool cars. I think what we ought to do is some way, somehow, create a sound associated with them. And I know that sounds goofy, but think about this. If you could make a simulated engine sound, I think it would be a lot safer than having a lot of vehicles that can go 0 to 60 in 4 or 5 seconds that don't make any sound. Does anyone agree with me on that? Because if you're ever running and all of a sudden you see a street in front of you and you decide, I'm just gonna run across it, and somebody's in a silent vehicle and they're gonna run a stop sign, let's say, you could have a lot of accidents where nobody heard it coming. So again, I guess that would be my thought in question. Do you think they could add some sort of simulated engine sound or something where when you're hitting the gas, it can create some sort of sound where it's audible? It's really nice out today, but I feel like lately when I've been walking a little too fast and rushing myself, and it's not like you guys care if I go slow or not, so maybe I'll slow down a little. I've been being harassed by these telemarketers every day. They have a situation where I can go into my phone and I can actually press some buttons in the settings. And I could set it up where only calls that are part of my contacts can come in. But I always have different people that I'm trying to reach out to that might not be in my contacts yet. And if they call me back because they're giving me an insurance quote, right? Or they're giving me a price for something or any darn thing. Sometimes there's people that call you that you need to get their call, but they're not necessarily in your contacts. And I just really don't like the idea of changing my phone for these telemarketers. But my God, what the hell else can I do? I literally get 30 or 40 calls a day. And I know you're thinking, Jesse, you complain about how your camera's 30 pounds and we know it's only 2. Are you exaggerating your phone calls? But I'm not. I literally get 30 or 40 calls a day. And at first I thought it was fun to kind of joke and kid with them. But I think what they've done is they've kind of labeled me as a fun person to talk to. And I think they've given my name and number out to every one of them. Because I get way more than the average person does. Anyway, let's go to these fun comments. If you have an electric car, I would love to hear your comments down in the comment section. Maybe let us know if you think that these are overblown complainers, or if there's something to their complaints. So @no thank you hun, great name, says getting stuck in a car is my literal nightmare. She might be one of those people that if she got stuck in a car, she would be too embarrassed to call the police or the fire department to come rescue her, right? But I agree with you, no thank you hun. If you're in a car and all of a sudden it's 103 degrees and you're sweating like crazy, and you feel like, God, if I open the door, it's gonna ruin my update, or if I wanted to open the door, I can't, I'm literally stuck in here, I could see how that would make one feel claustrophobic real quick. And if you've ever had any friends or family members that get claustrophobic, my God, they are miserable to be around when they're feeling claustrophobic. As a matter of fact, I don't have a problem if I'm in a small room for a number of hours because, sometimes that's how office work feels, right? But a person that's claustrophobic, if you're stuck in a room with them, God, they'll let you know 300 or 400 times during the hour that you're with them how claustrophobic they feel, and it makes you feel icky yourself. If you guys see any ghosts or goblins walking around, just know that they're real this time. It's, trick-or-treaters. @Silent Night M 2362 says, if you have to factory reset your car, that alone should be a concern and worthy of a refund. That goes back to the updates. I don't like the idea of a vehicle having to be updated all the time. Heck, I don't even like when my home computer needs to go through updates, and sometimes my work computer will send me on a 45-minute update, right in the middle of an important meeting. So I'm not a big fan of the updates, and I know that you can schedule them for certain times, But it sounds like that's just one of the many annoying things that you have to deal with these electric vehicles. So I agree with you. If you have to get a factory reset, I don't know if that's something that you need to get a full refund over, but I see what you're saying. They're basically saying, okay, let's start over. Something went wrong. And I could see how you would probably want your money back on a car like that. At Kiki F 3620 says, I'll stick with my gas guzzler. Kiki F, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of nice cars. One of the things that the video was saying is that the hybrid vehicles, you know, where they're part gas, part electric, they actually outdo both electric and gas powered cars. And apparently over a 5 or 10 year satisfaction situation, or report, I should say, I always say situation, I apologize. Out of a 5 or 10 year report from drivers of hybrids, they actually report less problems than both gasoline and electric vehicles. So if you've been contemplating the idea of getting a hybrid, that might not be a horrible idea. Just make sure you shop around and try to get the best price that you can. I have always loved the way certain vehicles look. But one thing I noticed in my probably mid-20s was that when you're in a vehicle and you're driving, you're looking out the windshield, and no matter how you slice or dice it, you're going from point A to point B. And if you could get to the point in your life, kind of like the millionaire next door, right, where you're okay with a used vehicle, and maybe you're okay with not, you know, roughing up your vehicle and trying to be good to it and make it last, I think that could be a make it or break it situation for folks. In other words, if you're okay with buying used, if you try to take care of your stuff and keep it in good condition, don't let stuff get worse and worse, because you know when something goes wrong, if you don't fix it, it seems to always lead to a domino effect of other shit that goes wrong with it, right? But a lot of people end up spending a lot more money on vehicles than others do. And while some vehicles look really nice, when you get that monthly bill of $1,200 or whatever crazy number people are paying for their car payments now, man, that'll make you hate that nice car real quick. Like right here, this guy's got a nice 2023 vehicle. That means that he bought a nice looking vehicle, but he went used, and that probably saved him X amount of thousands of bucks. And when you multiply that with the interest rate over a 6 or 7 year car loan, which sometimes they're long car loans like that now, right? That can save you thousands of dollars. This time of year, the sun is so low in the sky constantly that I just feel like it's constantly like right in my eyeballs. At Maxed 2 says these EVs are not built to withstand bad weather either, so I'll pass. So here's the thing. If salt water gets on the battery, they could potentially explode, right? The batteries. If you have any type of problem, it's going to be expensive. If it lacks performance in the hottest part of summer, and it also lacks performance in the coldest part of winter, then you're going to have a handful of times during the year where you want to pull your hair out and you wish you would have just went with gas, you know, a gas-powered vehicle. And when it comes to the environment, I think we can all agree, based on what we've learned the last handful of years, they're not all they're cracked up to be, and they're a pain in the butt. So even if they make the environment somewhat nicer to live in for future generations, it's not going to be nicer if everybody's stressed out and pissed all the time. And it sounds to me like these cars breed anger. That Halloween was supposed to be a national holiday where everybody was in the neighborhood together, trick-or-treating and eating candy. It was such a magical, wonderful time when we were little, and I know there's some Christians out there that'll be like, it's the devil's holiday. But to be honest with you, a lot of holidays are kind of devilish nowadays if you think about it. If you look at it for what it really was kids in the neighborhood really enjoying their neighborhood. And now we've lost that community bond. And I just wish some way, somehow, we could bring it back. If there's little kids that can somehow hear my voice, maybe your younger generation will somehow be able to bring things back like Christmas and Halloween, because they used to be really special times. and they're just not as special anymore, and it's kind of sad. If you feel the same way I do, let me know. But I think a lot of us grew up in neighborhoods where every one of your neighbors gave you trick-or-treat candy. And people used to take pillowcases because bags just weren't big enough. And people would fill up their pillowcases, and yes, there was the occasional bully that would steal people's candy. But again, there was so much to go around that it really wasn't that big of a deal. At Ariel Darkstar says, never buy anything that just came out on the market. Let others test it for you. You know, there is something to be said about that if you think about it. If you're gonna be a guinea pig for something a little bit cheaper than an electric vehicle. Because when it comes to your vehicle, it is the second biggest purchase you're gonna make other than your home during your lifetime. So I don't think I would ever invest $100 or $100,000 in a particular vehicle either. But at the same time, if you're a multi-millionaire, it's not that big of a deal if you spend $100K on a car, right? So if you do spend $100K on a car and you're a millionaire, it makes more sense than somebody that's trying to look like a millionaire. And I think that's one thing millionaires would tell people. I spend money as a millionaire. This is not me. I'm just trying to pretend to be one here. I spend money as a millionaire, but I can afford it. If you can't afford it, it is silly and asinine for you to try to fake people into thinking you're some rich, successful person. And again, that's not me saying it. That's just me saying that I bet if you ask 100 millionaires, 90 of them will tell you, don't spend money like I do. I only do it because I can. And by the way, whenever you meet somebody that says I do it because I can, they're usually jerks. At Logan Grace Hope says, this is insane. These cars are such a hazard. What's especially scary is that they explode in salt water. Logan, I was just mentioning that if salt water gets in these batteries and it breaches it some way, somehow. I went from one dead battery to another one that's almost dead because I didn't charge it, just proving that these batteries are not the greatest batteries. It's kind of ironic. So anyway, what this last person said is so true. If these batteries get breached, it can literally lead to a situation where the battery explodes. And what's crazy is I've seen some videos in China where these batteries have been in cars that were lined up in rows, and right when one car went up in flames, it ended up leading to all of the cars being in flames. So here's a question I have for you. Would you rather smell a fireball of gasoline or a fireball of these crazy chemicals that are in these batteries? Because I think I would rather have the gasoline. And by the way, if my battery dies here, I want to wish you guys a beautiful day and make sure that you keep walking. Always go for extra credit this time of year because the weather is so nice. Right now it feels like about 70 degrees and there's a little breeze. Absolutely gorgeous out here, and I want you guys to experience it. This is the time of year when you need to be walking. So these batteries don't work well in the cold. They don't work well in the extreme heat. When they catch fire, they are a crazy hazard. The batteries take 1 hour just to charge up to 80%. They take another hour of your time to get up to 100%. They lose their value like crazy, and they're not so environmentally friendly. So yet again, here's one of those things where everybody told us that when you listen to the experts, this is the way to go. But I think we need to start disagreeing with some of the experts. They're always looking for novel things to change stuff, and they don't really think it through. These cars are not necessarily the answer to the future, but the hybrid cars might be. Why don't we try to jump into the hybrid world before we start to sprint in the EV world? And again, if you're walking, guys, you guys have seen it. I've been almost run over, I should say, a couple of times over the last handful of days because people weren't looking. And oh yeah, by the way, their cars were silent. So thank God that I saw them before I got hit. If you're in a neighborhood, keep your head up and on a swivel so these silent cars don't make you a victim, you know? And speaking of victim, you're gonna have an opportunity to eat a lot of candy Stay away from it. Be strong. Eat it in moderation. And if you can't really do that, then don't do it. Look at the size of that wiener dog. That is crazy. That wiener dog looks like he's part wiener dog, part Rottweiler or something. That is bizarre. There are, dogs are kind of like weird experiments. Hey, that's a canardly. What's a canardly? You can canardly tell what the hell that dog is, right? But it looks like it's part wiener dog, part something else, part Cujo. Holy moly, that Cujo, not a nice dog. Anyway, guys, I thank you for joining me on this walk. Let's stay positive. If you do have an EV vehicle, just make sure you keep good care of it. Try to trade it in if you can right away, but if you can't, just learn to enjoy it. Most people love their EV, so it's not all that bad. And have a great night, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.